Welcome to our podcast, Doing It Right. This podcast reveals authentic stories from successful leaders doing it right. It's about their journey to become a leader, their choices, motivations, and lessons. In essence, how they built successful personal brands. Your host is Valerie Sokolowski, author of 8 leadership books and nationally known as an authority on executive presence and personal branding. Let's get started. Here's Valerie.
How do you like our new studio? This is the first time I've been in this studio, and I have to say, I think it's great. Colonel West, do you think it's great? How do you like it?
I am happy to be here with you. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
2020, the year of clear vision, and this is a very nice studio. I like the fact that we can look out and see a little bit of North Texas here.
We've got some bright lights. We may sweat a little, but that's okay.
That's all right.
You know, this is the third time you've been on the show, and this
I got to get it right eventually. So
you've got to do it right.
Yeah, I do it right, yeah.
Well, you've done it right every time. But you know what? This time, I decided. I didn't ask you. I just made a decision.
Most women do.
Yes, most leaders have to do that.
That's
Is that right?
That's right.
I made a decision that I wanted this show to be about you, the man. That's Southern, isn't it?
That is very southern. Yeah.
Because, you know, Colonel West, we know you as a retired U.S. Army. We know you as an author of several books. We know you in all of the wonderfulness of your credentials. But I don't know if everyone knows you, and me included. I'm going to ask you just some things about who you are. Are you ready for this?
Let's go. Let's dive deep in those waters.
Let's
huh?
dive deep.
Okay.
All right. Well, first of all, I was thinking about the fact that if there's one word, really 2 words, that to me describe you, it's change agent.
Wow. Okay.
Okay? You can own that because that's, I think, your brand. You, in everything you've ever done that we know about, that I've read about, and in knowing you have heard about, it's been about making change, and you've never been afraid of change.
Well, you shouldn't. As a matter of fact, one of the things that you learn very often and early in the military is that the only thing constant in life is change. Mm-hmm. And I think that is part of evolving. That's part of growing, is understanding that things are going to change. You accept that. And that's what a visionary leader does. They look and see, you know, we can't stay, you know, constant. We have to be able to adapt, improvise, and excel and achieve and overcome. So that's one of the critical things about change that I fully embrace.
So where did that come from? Were you always a little kid that just made things happen differently? Where'd that come from?
Well, I will tell you that truthfully, I'm an introvert at heart.
No way.
Yes, I am, very much so. And my wife and daughters will tell you that you can sit me in a room and I am very happy to just sit there and have complete quiet.
Then how do you go out and do all these tours and talk in front of audiences?
That's what you have to do. That's the servant side of you. Because many times we are called to do things that are above and beyond what we want to do. I mean, Moses was not a great orator, and that's why he had Aaron. And one of the great things that I believe that God does not call the equipped. He equips the folks that he calls. And so
say that again. That's powerful.
Well, okay, you can own this. God does not call the equipped. Mm-hmm. He equips those that he calls. So, you know, when I look at the type of things that I like to do in my personal life, you know, getting up in the morning at 5:30 before, you know, the traffic is out and the sun is up and go for a nice 4 to 5 mile run is because I like that peace. I like that quiet. I like that serenity. I like to be able to hear that still, quiet voice. When I go motorcycle riding, you know, most times I go by myself. Because again, I like that peace. I like that quiet. When I go scuba diving, you know, the great thing about that is that it's that serenity that is down there. The only thing that you hear are your bubbles. And so I know that some people are saying, well, you know, you can get one of those masks where you can talk to someone. I don't want to talk to anybody.
Oh, that's funny.
That's the whole point of going scuba
Exactly.
diving. And just being, you know, encompassed with the beauty of the underwater world. So yeah, from an early age, I was, you know, really much so an introverted kind of guy. I got picked on a little bit.
You did? Why?
Oh, yeah, because I was a little short, fat, pudgy kid. And, I went to the private Catholic school. I didn't initially go to the public schools. And so.
And this was Atlanta?
This was in Atlanta, so you
Okay.
get picked on a little bit. So I really learned how to be, tough. But like I said, I'm very comfortable being in a shell.
When you were tough as a little kid, when you were picked on as a little kid, there's so much bullying going on now. What did your parents say to you and how to handle that?
My mother taught me that a man must stand for something, or else he'll fall for anything. And the measure of a man is not how many times you get knocked down, but how many times you get back up. And Dad, also told me that, son, there's nothing wrong with throwing a punch sometimes. And
That's what I wondered.
Yeah, yeah.
When do you know to push back?
Well,
and how far can you go?
You give someone that space, but when someone invades that space, then you have to be able to strike back. Because most times with bullies, they will continue to, like we just saw with Iran, okay? Great case in
Exactly.
point. Most times people that are bullies, or even nations or leaders that are bullies, they will continue to pick on the folks that they perceive as weak or a weak response. But once you smack them back in the nose, then they kind of understand, all right, the game's up and I got to go elsewhere. And I think that that's what you saw in our response to the killing of General Soleimani, who had been around killing Americans for quite some time, going all the way back to 1983 with the Beirut barracks bombing. So that was what Dad wanted me to understand, is that you have to be measured. You have to be very calculating. You have to understand the gaps that you can go and exploit someone if they are trying to overpower and to dominate you. And I also learned that, those books that I was carrying, those history books, those are really good for a beatdown.
There you go. What about girls, though? You have 2 daughters.
I got 2 daughters.
So what do you tell them?
Well, I tell them that, I never want them to be a victim. And that's how I've raised them. I've raised them to understand that you have to be able to protect yourself, and you have to be able to stand your ground. I don't want anyone to see you as someone that they can push over. And now that they're 26 and 22, they have to go out and they have their own business dealings. They have things that they have to do. Dad's not going to be there when you're negotiating getting your house, or your car has to get fixed, or those type of things. But in watching me and growing up, they see the means by which I can objectively and analyze and assess a situation and come up with the right type of response or the right type of solution. And that's what I want them to be. I want them to be critical thinkers. And I think that's one thing that my parents taught me early on, is to be a critical thinker. I would, my task before dinner was to take a story out of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and I had to give a 3 to 5 minute summary of that story. Before we
Really?
had dinner.
At what age?
Well, I mean, as a kid, I mean,
Really?
I
a
cannot
great
print.
idea.
I cannot print. I have good penmanship when it comes to writing cursive, because I was writing cursive before I hit the first grade.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and really the thing about that, I think another word that my close friends will always describe me is discipline.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So, and that's what you learn. I mean, when you're sitting there before you even go into first grade, and you're practicing, the perfection of cursive, between those lines. Remember the dotted lines and the
I
complete line.
remember.
Yeah. And I think that that's a very important thing to talk to kids and get them to understand, because if they get into that sense of immediate gratification, I'll just text it, I'll just hit, spell check or whatever, then they lose the discipline of being able to communicate effectively.
Don't you wonder if the teachers are all teaching that way, which we know they're not
They're
all
not.
teaching that way. And that goes to you now raising the girls and being a family man.
Yeah.
And
30 years.
30,
I had 30
congratulations.
yeah, I know.
You're a dinosaur. That means a lost breed.
Yeah, 30 years in December. We've been married.
Okay, let's talk about that for a minute. I'd be curious to ask maybe 3 things that you keep uppermost in your mind about being a family man.
The most important thing is that your reputation carries. The minute you walk outside the door, I know that I'm on a stage. And as my parents raised me up to understand, and that's why, I mean, who I am today is because of the lessons that they inculcated in me. My dad used to say, never do anything you don't want to see on the front page of the newspaper.
Oh, that's great. That's
And
really
I
good.
think that's important. I think that's one of the things that you have in the back of your head with young people when they go out and they're doing all of these crazy things. And, we did not have the selfie phone.
That's right.
So people could immediately take pictures of
Oh
it, and
my
it stays out there.
gosh.
So, I mean, we were circumspect, I think, in what we did. And that's very important in not embarrassing your folks. The biggest beat down I ever got from my dad was as a young kid down there in South Georgia, Cuthbert, Georgia, Randolph County, and we were visiting Granddad. And I was walking back from playing with some of the local boys, and when I got home, Dad knocked me out. I mean, just laid me out. Didn't say a word.
How old were you?
Oh, I was probably like 10, 11, something like that, but laid me out. I mean, and then when I stood up, he explained to me why. He's furious because people had called him because they knew that I was Buck West's son, Herman West Sr. They knew I was his son, Alan. And I did not recognize and say hello, good day, hello, ma'am, sir, as I was walking past all these houses with the folks sitting on the porch.
He knew that.
Yeah, they got on the phone, they called him. Because, and he explained to me, I carry his reputation. So if he has a disrespectful son, that brings disrespect on him. And that is, I mean, my dad died in 1986. As a matter of fact, next week will be the centennial of his birth. He was born in 1920. And my mom died in 1994. She died at 63. She had liver cancer. But even still today, I am a witness and a living example to them and who they were as people. And that's the other thing that I try to pass on to my daughters, is that you're carrying a name, and you're carrying a legacy, and you're carrying a reputation. And so it's important that you think about that, with all the things that you're going out and doing. And I think the other thing that's so important when you talk about, as a leader or a change agent, whatever, I always try to tell folks that leaders take responsibility. They don't take credit.
That's another really good, quick, pithy thing to say.
Yeah, and so I too often hear people in leadership positions use first person singular, and that's not a good thing. It should, achievements and accomplishments should always be about building up the team, building up the organization. When we were in the military and, you had the change of command ceremony, you're getting a new commander in, we're standing out there, we're sweating our tails off or whatever, because most of the changes of command happen in the summer. And so you got your full gear on, a helmet and everything, and you're just waiting for this new commander to come up there. And in the back of your head, you're thinking, how many times is that guy going to say I?
Oh, and what was typical?
Well, I mean, it depended on the person, but if you saw someone that went, above 5 times, saying I understand if you say, I am the example.
Right.
I am the embodiment of leadership. But when you say, I am going to do, no, we are going to probably, be doing most of that. So it's important that leaders, take the responsibility, but, give the credit to the troops, to the employees, to the people that are really out there making your vision come to life.
Right. That's a really good point. And it's interesting to me, too, Colonel West, in coaching leaders. Oftentimes, it's that little tiny pivot where I will hear a leader as they're talking about what they're going to, let's say, give as a speech. And very often, I will catch them saying, I. And I just look at them and say, you know what? I'm just concerned that you might have eye trouble. And
That's
for a
right.
minute, they look at me like, what do you mean?
Yeah, they don't get it. Yeah, they think,
Whoosh!
yeah, it's like the F-16 flyby.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think that's another thing about, how my parents raised me with humility.
Humility.
Yeah, I mean, because whatever I've done, it can be taken away in the twinkling of an eye.
And doesn't that happen in real life? Sometimes
does.
people get to the top. I mean, how many leaders have we seen in all walks of life that they get to a certain point in a career, and pretty soon it is all about what they're doing, and maybe it is, but they can't do it without everybody else.
Can't do it without somebody else. And then
No.
the other thing is that lots of times when people aren't in that limelight or that spotlight, then they get a sense of an inner irrelevance. and they try to force themselves into a limelight or spotlight. I mean, I think Clint Eastwood said, I believe it's in the movie Outlaw Josey Wales, a man's got to know his limitations. There comes a point in time when you have to say, it's not about me. I've run the race, as Paul would say, and it's time for me to step aside. But so often people don't want to do that. They just have to stay in that limelight. And it's important to be able to say, it's time for someone else to step up. And so another one of the things that I always keep in the back of my mind is, who am I developing to be a next generation of great leader? Now, let me give you a case in point. This past Christmas, we went down to South Georgia to spend time with my older brother for Christmas, and took the family around South Georgia, let them see all the different places where I grew up, and got the opportunity to go to Fort Benning. And I went to Fort Benning because one of the commanding generals there at Fort Benning was one of my cadets.
Oh,
that I
really?
instructed in college.
That had to be a great feeling.
It is, and that's how it should be. Because here I was, I only made it to lieutenant colonel.
Only.
But the fact, well, seriously, I only made it to lieutenant colonel. But the fact that now I'm sitting with a young man that is a one-star general, that's what you should want in life. That's what you should want for your children. That is what you should want in all the people that come around you. If you're going to be a change agent, then you should be a change agent not for your life, but for others and for their lives.
Very true. That's called servant leadership.
That's what it's about.
I want to get back to you, the man. Okay. So I've got some questions
Yes,
here.
ma'am.
Who do you look to? So many people look to you, and leaders like you who are making a difference and walking the talk and staying authentic. But who do you look to when you want counsel?
Well, I go to the Bible. I pray. I think that's the greatest leadership book ever written is the Bible. Everything that you could ever confront, there is a solution in the Bible. I'm wholeheartedly serious about that. My dad was a true and real role model, for me. And then, of course, with Angela, I mean, she'll tell you I'm a hard-headed guy because I'm from down south. That's just how we're raised down south. We're hard-headed fellas. But, I appreciate so much her wisdom and her counsel and her intellect. I mean, when Daddy told me, boy, don't always worry about, beauty, worry about brains.
You got both.
I hit the jackpot.
You did.
Absolutely. With someone, MBA and a PhD. And so I just work hard and make money. I just give it to her and she grows it. And so having a woman that is truly a Proverbs 31 woman, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, verses 10 through the end of that chapter, it really talks about the virtuous woman. So I think that's very important that we have partners that are virtuous and partners that can tell us what we need to hear. And Angela's very good at that.
Is
sometimes, telling me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear.
When does she do that the most?
Every day.
Is there one thing that kind of grits on her maybe that she'll gig you
well,
about?
It's interesting because Angela can sometimes not be the most neat person. And that kind of grinds on me because I'm a very structured, disciplined person. But yet in the midst of the chaos and all the things she can be very precise in her thinking and her analysis and her assessments. So she's a quick study on things. And because being a financial advisor, she has a highly analytical mind. So that's what I appreciate about her often. So I will tell you there are many times that, in combat, you don't have time to deliberate.
No.
So I'm a very direct and forthright thinker, and, I can try to quickly process information and make a decision. Angela's a little bit more deliberative about things. And it's that, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, or whatever.
Right.
And so, she's sitting there and she's talking to me and she wants to hear my feelings about it. And I'm just like, after 5 minutes, we'll just do this.
Boom.
Yeah, well, she's like, I'm not looking for you to make a decision. I just want to, share my feelings with it. And so that's where we still kind of have this thing where, you're bringing me problems and I'm, trying to give a solution and I'm processing it. So
That's what makes a great marriage, though. I think opposites do attract.
well, and that's what gives you some gray hair sometimes.
That's right. Mine's hidden. Your shows.
Yeah.
What about the girls? Are they like you or like her or both?
I think Aubrey, our oldest, who's 26, is more so like me, very direct. She has a low tolerance for stupidity. Austin is a little bit more feeling oriented, very, very emotional. But when she does decide that she's had enough, I mean, much like Angela, with that Jamaican anger, yeah, get out of the way.
That's great. And they're grown and doing their own thing. What are they doing now?
Aubrey is, physician assistant. She works with Methodist Hospital in South Dallas. And Austin is a software sales consultant just right back over here in
Oh,
Addison.
interesting.
Yeah.
Two completely opposite.
Two completely opposites. Austin
Opposite.
really likes the technology thing and likes, the gadgetry and everything like that. Aubrey really likes to serve people. That's why she loves the medical field.
And they're both being successful. And of course, they
They're
have
off
the
my
parents that
payroll.
are making sure of it.
Yeah.
Is there anything that just really stresses you or is a trigger for you?
Yeah. When you are speaking out against my God and my country, I'm just wired that way. And I get really upset when people don't understand our Judeo-Christian faith heritage and how important it is in the fabric of these United States of America. And I get upset when people don't understand the greatness of the United States of America. I was really, really angry about the response from some people to the killing of the Iranian Quds Force leader Qasem Soleimani. I know soldiers that have lost limbs because of the explosive force penetrators. You can go back to, like I say, 1983 with the Beirut barracks bombing. I've met Marines that lost friends in that 1983 bombing, tied to Hezbollah, to Iran, back to him. So
Those are facts.
Those are facts. Yeah, those are facts. And so when I present facts and people don't want to accept facts, I have a very non-negotiating type of, demeanor.
Colonel, you've said two things about this, and I want to go back to your faith for a minute because experience. So you've become so adamant about the military discipline and all the things you really experienced. Everything we experience, we can become much more adamant about what that experience teaches us. When it comes to saying something about your God, my question to you is very forthright, and that is, so how did you and when did you come to such a deep, strong sense of who God is in your life?
Well, your parents always instill that in you. Growing up, it was non-negotiable that Wednesday was Bible study and there was children's Bible study. You also had youth choir. You're going to be in the choir, even though you couldn't sing. You're going to be in the choir. Sunday morning, you woke up, you did your chores, and you went off to Bible school.
So you grew up in the faith.
Absolutely. Grew up in the faith, 4th Street United Methodist Church. But the thing was, when I was dropped off as a freshman at the University of Tennessee in 1979, I had to make that decision myself because
That's
faith
what I
is an
wonder.
individual responsibility. It's not a collective thing. My mother
Yeah.
and father can't pray my soul into heaven. So January 1980, as a freshman, I made that decision for myself. And so as you grow and you start to understand secular humanism, as you grow and understand that there are some people, and look, if you are an atheist, if you're agnostic, that's fine. You have to come within your own to make those decisions in your life. But when you are actively pursuing an ideological agenda that wants to undermine the first liberty, the first freedom that we have in our Constitution, our Bill of Rights is the freedom of religion and free exercise thereof, then we're going to have a discussion. And that's when I believe you cross the line. When I see a person like Jack Phillips, the baker from Colorado, who said, I will do anything you want, provide any service you want, but because of my faith, I don't want to provide a cake for your same-sex wedding. When I see a system, a court system that goes after him and tries to destroy him and destroy his business to the point where he has to go before the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, because of his faith, then I got a problem with that.
You feel very strongly about that, and that's what I think is so amazing about demand. You are at a point now in your career where you're launching out into something that's really big. I
Well-
want you to talk about how did you make the decision? You tell us, what are you doing now, and how did you come to do this?
Well, so many people have always said, we want to see you back in that leadership position in the political realm.
And you'd gotten out of it
Yeah,
because
I've been
of
out for
why?
10 years.
Why?
Well, I mean, I understand how ugly and backbiting and backstabbing it is. And I just don't have, like I said, I have a very low tolerance level for ignorance and incompetence and stupidity.
And now you're back in it.
Well, but see, I'm trying to get back in it, as you said, to be a change agent.
Okay.
Not for myself, which I could have, decided to run for Congress again or maybe run for Senate, but to run as chairman of the Republican Party of Texas means what I'm trying to do is set a standard, set a condition, be an example of principles and values, constitutional conservatism, which is the foundation of our great nation, to help, train, resource, recruit, the next generation of young constitutional conservative leaders for Texas and for this country. So it is not about me. It is about the ability to maybe one day, as I just had over Christmas, to look at a young person that is now a brigadier general, something that I will never be in my life. And it's just the same, I think, as, Paul, when he looked at all of the young men and women that he ministered to, wrote letters to Timothy and whomever, that he enabled them to continue on to preaching of that gospel. So that's what I'm seeking to do in this new position. And when you talk about, me, there are a couple of scriptures, Joshua 1:5 through 9, but especially verse 9. Be strong and of good courage, for the Lord thy God shall never leave you nor forsake you. Isaiah 54:17. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn, for that's the heritage of those who love the Lord, called according to his purpose. So that's why I'm willing, to charge into the maelstrom, because I believe that, I should not be fearful.
Well, you're doing it for the right reasons, and more people that rise to those occasions, especially in our politics, and I know some as well as you, who are really doing it because they're trying to make a difference. And I think that's what good leaders are doing too.
And it comes back to this, folks. It comes to this, doing it right.
Yeah.
That's all we're asking.
That's all
We're
you're
asking people to do it right, do it not for themselves, but for something that is greater than themselves.
Yeah.
For this incredible nation, for this incredible God that we serve, that has given us the blessings of this nation, so that there's some little boy, little girl in some faraway country that wants to one day live and enjoy the freedoms and liberties that we have here. Maybe we set the conditions for that to be possible, as well as ensuring that the dreams of our children and our grandchildren can be achieved here.
That's something we all want in this country, isn't it?
That's it.
I think so. Well, as always, it's taken, it goes too fast. There's so many other things. But I just want to thank you for allowing me to kind of dig down a little bit more into just who you are, because
My pleasure.
you are out there. You're out there on, excuse me, talk shows. You were on Levine's show. You're a Fox News contributor. You're an expert in so many things. And you have the exposure that could, to some people, cause someone to have a little ego. And I've never, in the time I've known you, which is what, maybe 2 years?
Yeah.
I've never seen 1 ounce of anything except, to the point, humility and deep, deep caring. And
You know what ego stands for, right?
No, tell me.
I learned this early on.
Okay.
Ego stands for edging God out.
I've never heard that. That's really
That's your
good.
song.
That's really good. I
And
learned
that's why I
something
don't
from
want to
you.
have an ego.
Could we just give a little bit of I don't know, a vial that has a little of all of your integrity and push
think-
it out when it's needed?
I think that's against the law, cloning and all this.
I think it is too.
But again, that's why you have to be an example, and that's why if I'm to be a change agent, I want to be a change agent for all the things that are good, right, and true, honest, integrity, and character. I'm not a perfect person. I'm just a sinner saved by grace, but there before the grace of go I.
Yeah. Well, we hope you just keep going and we hope that you get all of the things that you're wanting to accomplish done, Colonel. I'm just going to leave with a thought that I had about taking this into any kind of life situation, and particularly in business, which is the place I live, which is, I believe so strongly, Colonel West, that companies don't improve until people improve. I've actually got that as a tagline from the beginning on my website, and that's more than 25 years ago, and it's still true today. And that's kind of what you're saying. If leaders would just understand that if their people do well, they'll do well. They're not going to do well if their people don't do well. I had someone ask me the other day, Valerie, what do you do in leadership? And I came to an answer, and it was so simple I couldn't believe it. And here it is. I just teach them to do it right. It's just that simple.
It is.
Isn't it?
Brigadier General Jeffrey Miller, one of my commanders at Fort Bragg, said, leaders know what right looks like.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. Thank you so much
Thank you,
again
Valerie.
for being on the
Always.
show.
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. I don't know, we may have to have you come back
Oh,
again.
man.
He's just becoming a regular. I think we'll do a show together and have another guest. Wouldn't that be fun? That's all the time we have for now. Now, this is a live show, so you know that comments really make a difference. We look at every single one of them. We answer them. So if you have a question, if you have a comment, if you want to make a statement that you believe strongly in, please put it in the comments. And if you have friends that you think this show might be influential and impactful for, would you just send it on, share it, subscribe, and in the meantime, stay authentic. Until next time, we'll have another wonderful guest. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening. To receive Valerie's voice, free monthly leadership tips, and to learn more about her leadership programs and coaching, visit her website, valerieandcompany.com. Next week, we'll be here again to inspire, engage, and equip you with teachable points of view from successful leaders who have been doing it right. Until then, lead authentically.